All right, welcome in. Cube Show podcast, college football podcast, usually comes to you on Sundays. The days are going to be all jumbled up. This is what we're going to do. We're going to give you the college football preview brought to you by PrizePicks today. And then after the games are over, probably late on the 2nd, we are going to drop in with a recap of the games that took place. These are playoff games. So this show, specifically our preview each and every weekend of college football playoff weekends, is going to be brought to you by PrizePicks. You guys know I've already told you about PrizePicks, how easy it is. Go to prizepicks.com. The best place to play fantasy sports. All you got to do, go in, fill up your lineup. You can win 10 times your money easy. And you go in, play $5 right now. Use promo code CUBE. They're going to give you $50 to play with. So you got bowl games coming up. You got NBA college basketball going on right now. And you got the college football playoff, NFL as well. I showed you how easy it was last time. I'll show you again. Go right here to my phone. Click PrizePicks. Bam. I'm in. I'm going to go click college football. Boom. Right there. We're in. We're looking at Ashton Jeanty, more or less 134.5 rushing yards in this game against Penn State. We're also looking at Ashton Jeanty with half of a rushing and receiving touchdown against Penn State. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I'm going more than that. He's getting in the end zone at least once. We've also got Nicholas Singleton, 0.5 rush receiving touchdowns going in. You can go get that one right now. 74.5 rush yards, more or less, for Nicholas Singleton in this game. Drew Aller, 225.5 passing yards, more or less. You go in, you fill up your lineup, and you got a lot of different ways that you can go with that. I'll tell you one that I like for a bowl game coming up tonight. Harold Fannin, tight end for Bowling Green, 105.5 receiving yards. I go more there. I like that one. So we'll give you our lineups. We'll tweet those out at Cube Show. PrizePicks.com, or go download the app, use promo code CUBE, play 5, get 50. Right there, boom, then you're set up for the entire weekend thanks to our friends at PrizePicks, the best place to play fantasy sports. All right, let's get into today's games. Tuesday, December 31st, excuse me. We've got number 6 Penn State against number 3 Boise State in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Penn State dominant win against SMU. Boise has had time off. That's always dangerous because you have an opportunity to implement things, have new looks, show new things you've been working on. You can kind of master those, and then you can bust those out in this game. I just don't know if Boise has enough to be balanced enough to be able to knock off this Penn State football team. This defense is stout enough at the point of attack, athletic enough on the edges. And make no mistake, this Boise State offensive line is not the main reason that Ashton Jeanty does what he does. You know, I'd be glad to tell you guys that. They're okay. They're fine. They're good. They're solid, but they're not great. They're not dominant by any stretch of the imagination. Their scheme and the way that he operates is going to be a big reason that some of this stuff goes. His patience, his vision, and Penn State does a pretty good job of maintaining a lot of that. We talked last week about how SMU was going to try to do some things out on the perimeter, but the athleticism there on the edges was going to give Penn State a little bit of the advantage. Because you had a quarterback that basically handed you the game early, Penn State didn't have to do a lot up front. But I do like their bodies up front against what Boise State's going to have trying to block them. So then it comes down really to Maddox Madsen, 22 touchdowns, 3 picks this year. Against pressure, he's been pretty good. I think his QBR is like 87 when he's facing the blitz this year, and hadn't thrown a ton of interceptions. I think 11 touchdown passes versus the blitz this year. He's been pretty good there. But if I'm Penn State, I'm not necessarily going after him, even on 3rd and longs, because I think Penn State's going to move the football. I think the balance that they have found offensively with formations, shifts, movements, different personnel lined up in different places, personnel groupings that are hard to identify. It's going to make Singleton and company be able to go out there and run the football. I think when you see some of the counter powers that hit outside, now they had a couple against SMU that cut back for big yardage, but when you see those hit outside, I just don't think Boise's going to be fast enough to be able to keep up. You throw in a little bit of Tyler Warren here, there, everywhere. Drew Aller's not going to have to do a bunch. I thought Aller did a nice job sort of managing the game in the pocket last week, not trying to get out of control, not trying to do too much. We talk about situational football a lot. Drew Aller had a good idea where that game was last week, didn't go out and try to win it himself, didn't try to go out and play hero ball. He just did what the offense asked him to do. And if that was a check down, if that was him, leaving the pocket, scrambling for 3-4 yards, he did it. No unnecessary risks. Penn State gets a comfortable win. I like Penn State to go get this one again because I think up front they'll be able to win. I don't know if they're going to dominate per se. I think Ashton Jeanty gets his. See, I think a lot of times you look at this and you say, all right, we're going to overcommit. We're going to go out. We're going to put 9 guys on the line of scrimmage, 9 guys in the box. We're going to take Ashton Jeanty away. You overcommit to an extent in this game, but you don't want to make life easy in other places. You don't want gimmies for any offense. Maddox Madsen has been an efficient quarterback this year, probably mostly due to some of the circumstances and the advantages that he's had being able to throw the football to soft coverage, being able to throw into one-on-ones, because people have overcommitted to the box. I say Ashton Jeanty's getting his. Just don't let him take over the game to where they control the pace and the tempo and they keep the football away from your offense for 35, 38 minutes of this game. And I think Penn State's fine. Avoid turnovers because you'll get some movement up front. And if you can find a way for Drew Alder to just be comfortable, handle things the way that he did a week ago, I think Penn State wins this football game and moves on. Let's go to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, where Texas and Arizona State are going to meet Wednesday, January the 1st at noon on ESPN. I said when I filled out my bracket, I thought Arizona State would pull this upset. Do I think they can do it? Yes, I do. One, they've had time off. They're going to be able to rest. So now you're going to see everything that they've run. Now you might have a possible ball fake on it, a reverse on it. You might have a different route combination on something that they've run all year, where Texas is going to be honed in on that, dialed in on that, even themselves with a couple extra days to prepare, and maybe trying to jump her out or maybe trying to see a formation and feel like, oh, we've got that. We're going to go here and try to take it away. And then, boom, they get you over the top. So, listen, I think Kenny Dillingham's a great offensive mind. I think he's going to be able to design some things that are going to be able to get yardage. Cam Scadaboo has been great, not only running the football, catching the football. And I think Sam Levitt's highly underrated. This young man can keep plays alive. He can find yardage when it should have been a negative play. I do think that both Scadaboo and Levitt have to be careful with some of the hero ball stuff. I mean, you see Scadaboo, he'll turn and run back behind the line of scrimmage, and a lot of times it works out, and it's great. Levitt will keep plays alive, and then all of a sudden find somebody down the field. You have to be careful against this defense when you're trying to do those things. Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, too fast. They run too well. They're going to be able to turn those into negative plays. Arizona State cannot live in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 2nd and 15. You can't do that. You're not built to do that. It's not going to be who you are. I do think Melquan Stroval, Malik McClain got to step up at wide receiver in this game for Arizona State. You've got to find a way to make plays because, once again, as I have stated when we've previewed Texas a couple of times, whether it was Georgia in the SEC championship game, Clemson last week, you're not running in the A gaps. You're going to have trouble running in the B gaps. In the middle of that Texas D-line looked great last week. Arizona State's not going to live there. Good news for Arizona State. You're a gap scheme heavy team. A lot of these defenses hate facing this stuff. When you can go counter and power and you can pull different tight ends, different tackles, different offensive linemen. They got a center that can pull at times for Arizona State, big physical center who I love. They can get out in space and can hurt you. And Scadaboo does a great job of, even when they're wrong, making them right because he has a full understanding of the offense and the plays that are being run, and it doesn't have to be an exact science for him to be able to gain positive yards. It's one of the things that makes him a really good running back. It doesn't have to be, okay, boom, we're going to hit this off the right tackle, and then I'll get north and south, and I'll do my stuff from there. Doesn't have to operate that way. He's one of those backs that he sees 2 or 3 levels ahead. He sees plays develop or not develop before the blocks happen or don't happen. And so he makes his cuts according to that. And it makes him effective a lot of the times, makes him successful. But I just think this Texas defense up front is still going to be a problem. This is a physical offensive line for Arizona State. It's a group that likes to finish. It's a group that's got some nasty, but technically, fundamentally, they're not overly sound. And that's where I think Barron Sorrell, who's going to be inside, outside, Ethan Burke. I mentioned Simmons and Moore, Bill Norton inside, Alfred Collins. They're going to be able to make some of those small technical mistakes into negative plays. And that's where Texas is going to win this game. I think Sark will have Quinn Ewers, a quick game plan that's going to get the ball out on time. Not going to ask him to sit in the pocket for too long because Arizona State will give you different looks and they'll attack you different ways. And they're a group that has, I want to say it was 13 players have 2 or more tackles for loss. So it's not 1 or 2 guys that have to be effective for Arizona State to be able to get in the backfield and disrupt. They have a lot of different guys that can do that. Here's the problem. You're going to run a stunt on the outside. You're going to run a slant with the replacement linebacker over the edge. That's great. That can work. But we've seen Wisner and company with the flow of this now outside zone scheme and how Texas is running it. that can really be patient and hit north and south. Now, if Wisner 100%, I don't know, but I don't think it's really going to matter because you got Gunnar Helmet tight end that you can hit. You have a multitude of receivers that can take quick throws, high percentage throws, turn those into explosives. Just going back and looking at it again, I think Texas is going to be way too much. I love this upset pick early on. Do I think it could happen? Sure. I think a lot has got to go Arizona State's way. And they absolutely have to have game control to win this football game. They've got to stay ahead of the chains. That's got to open up some shot plays for them. They have to dominate the clock, and they must limit explosives. Probably get a turnover or two, which is something really Texas has not done a lot of this year. They've been great at protecting the football. And so Arizona State's going to have to go out there, find ways to disrupt quickly. And if they don't, I think it could be a long day. All right, so we'll go to 4 o'clock on ESPN, also on January 1. The Rose Bowl, Ohio State and Oregon. We know what happened here last week. If we get the same Ohio State defensive line, if JT and Jack Sawyer and company are as disruptive with fewer numbers, then, yeah, Ohio State's probably going to win this football game. If the Ohio State offensive line brings the physicality that they brought and manages things up front as well as they did against Tennessee, they'll win this game. The minute difference between, I think, Oregon and Tennessee's front, Tennessee's might be a little more physical, a little bit more bigger and badder. Oregon wins with a little bit more precision. This is an Oregon front that understands technically when you twist, when you slant, what that has to open up for somebody else. And they get a lot from helping one another out. They get a lot from assignment football on defense, not just an individual game wrecker or a guy taking over a game or because they're bigger, badder, and have heavier hands than anybody else. It's not necessarily how Oregon wins. But if the Ohio State offensive line looks as good as they did the last time we saw them, they'll be able to manage that, offset that. And then, too, I think when you go back, there were 3 runs of 10 yards or more the first time these two teams played. There were 4. 3 of those 4 came in the first quarter. So whatever adjustments Lanning and company make, can Chip Kelly continue to counter that and keep finding positive yards? Because Will Howard was great against Tennessee. Can he do it again against Oregon? And is Oregon going to put as many guys up in the box and play as much man to even give them that opportunity? Because I think they'll look at, okay, we can out-scheme up front. We're not going to have to commit 8-9 bodies to the box to be able to take Judkins and Henderson away. So we'll see if we can go out there and maybe be able to manage this. G. Scott, going to be a big piece again, helping off the edge. And then I think a couple of dump passes, a couple of quick passes to the tight end, screen games to the back, I think are going to be big. And then for Ohio State, too, it's tackling. There was a ton of second chance yards the last time these two teams played, whether it was a back off tackle that was in a one-on-one, makes a guy miss, gets 6-8 more yards. There was a slant with the DB right on him, chance to knock ball down, chance to make tackle, doesn't. Ends up being a bigger pickup. And then obviously the plays over the top. Ohio State's got to negate those because they were back killers last time. So if they can find a way to limit some of the explosives by Oregon, I think they get it. I'm just not going against Dylan Gabriel and company and what they've done this year. They've just been fantastic, and they're undefeated. They're number 1 team in the country for a reason. I think they have a multitude of weapons offensively that they can hurt you with. And I think if this gets into an offensive showdown, a track meet, so to speak, which, I mean, we've seen Georgia, Oklahoma. We've seen Ohio State, Utah. Like, this game feels like it's kind of gone that way a lot of different times. But we know Jordan James can get it. We know this group of receivers, Ted Johnson, Evan Stewart, can get it. Trayshawn Holden has been solid for Oregon this year. I just don't think Ohio State wants to get into that kind of game with how efficient Dylan Gabriel has been this year. He's been incredible. 73%, 28 touchdowns to 6 picks. I just don't know if you want to try and trade offensive possessions with that group, even though your defense looked great last week. I think the Oregon offensive line is really good. Physical, tackles, physical. They do have an occasional breakdown out there in pass protection. They get a little overzealous at times, and that's where JT, Jack Sawyer, and company could maybe have some advantages. But you got to back them up first and slow down some of that run game, which I do think individually, like, I don't like Oregon just be able to push this team around, but they have a way through motions and different formations and different looks that they give you through fakes, RPOs, different things to get you out of your spots. If they can do that, I think Oregon finds a way to win. If Ohio State can negate that, that's how they could find some success defensively. So I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it'll be a close game. I'm just not going against Oregon at this point with how they've looked all season. And I think they stay undefeated. They advance. Finally, I'll be on the radio call for Notre Dame and Georgia for ESPN Radio. So I'm not going to make a pick on it, but I'll tell you my thoughts on it. The loss of Riley Mills is absolutely huge. He was incredible against Indiana. Even though the stat box may not have said it, he dominated that game. That defensive line was dominant in that game. But Watson company on the back end were the ones that essentially won the game, getting ball carriers to the ground and defending passes. Even with Mills out, I don't think Georgia can just line up, run inside zone, run counter, run mid zone, run duo, and just have 232 yards rushing and send Notre Dame on their way. I don't think that happens. I think the intermediate passing game has to be there for Georgia if they're going to win this football game. So quick throws to Dominic Lovett, quick throws maybe to Etienne out of the backfield, quick throws to the tight ends. Delp and company have to be big in this game, I think, too. We saw a massive catch down the right sideline last time out by a Georgia tight end to be able to help extend this game and then ultimately get the win. So I think that intermediate passing game is going to be huge. We've seen Etienne be able to help a lot when he's been healthier, and it looks like he is that now. Of course, they're going to lean on him a little bit more with Gunnar Stockton in the game. Quarterback run with Gunnar Stockton, you'd love to have it. You want it. However, with him getting knocked out of that game against Texas, how much are you going to call it? I don't question the kid's toughness at all, and I think that's a big part of why everybody on that team likes him, why you see the guys act different for him and around him. But I think at the end of the day, you have to protect him a little bit as well, because to go to number 3 in a game like this, not really what you want. So I think it's going to be a lot of quick throws, high percentage throws. You'll probably get some motions fakes. But once again, pre-snap, like how much do you want to put on him? How much do you want to ask of him? I imagine you'll see Georgia huddle in this game, have a lot of those conversations before they come to the line of scrimmage, maybe give you one shift, one motion, try to find out and identify what's going on with that, and then hit you quickly to some of those tight ends or quick throws to the receivers. Screen game probably going to be big. We've seen Georgia lean on the screen game at times, and then we've seen them get away from it a little bit. I think you'll see a diverse plan with a lot of run game, a lot of mixture in the run game, some quick throws, some screens, just to try to take some of that pressure off Gunnar Stockton. But this is a defense that I think, for the most part, can play man and be problematic and have an extra body in the box against the run, which is going to make life complicated. I think Georgia needs, honestly, a couple explosive plays to be able to get enough points to win this football game. Where I don't feel great about Notre Dame is offensively, because I think some of the balls that Riley Leonard has hit down the field, Georgia safeties are going to be able to play those. And you have so much athleticism with the different players that you use in different spots up front. Even though I do like this Notre Dame offensive line, I don't like them in straight pass pro against this group for very long. They were great against Indiana's group, and Indiana's got some twitch on the edge, and they give you different looks and different pressures and different stunts. But I don't think Indiana has anywhere near the speed and athleticism that Georgia brings. And that's not just inside with Warren and Mykel Williams out on the edge. I think that's also taking different backers, put them in different places, and be able to rush you that way. So I just think that Georgia's defense is going to be too fast, too athletic. I love what Riley Leonard did last week. I thought he was overly efficient. I thought he worked the pocket well. I didn't think he got himself into trouble by trying to be too much or do too much. One time moving, throws the one deep ball. It was right on the money. Did he miss a few throws? Yes. However, I really think the way he managed that game was exactly what Notre Dame needed. I think he needs to make more plays in this game. There's going to have to be more designed quarterback runs, but not direct north and south runs. Like, you're not running quarterback inside zone against this team 10 times for 80 yards. It's just not going to go. So you've got to find a way through fakes, through movement, different motions or read plays to be able to get Riley Leonard loose and let him run and try to attack that way. But I think the Notre Dame defense and defensive plan will be enough to slow this group down. It's just, I don't know offensively if Notre Dame's going to be able to generate enough. Now, Gunnar Watson goes out there and turns it over a couple of times. Then all of a sudden, Riley Leonard can play a similar style game. You give it to Jeremiah Love 22 times. He maybe busts one, and that could be enough. Once again, competitive game, but it's going to be difficult for Notre Dame to overcome a couple of the losses they've had to injury and the explosive capability that Georgia has on defense up front. But I think this is going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a tight one. There's a lot of matchups I'm excited to see and just how different things are managed. I mean, listen, let's not pretend like Notre Dame's OC can't call plays. Like we've seen him do it at LSU, Notre Dame before. Like he's going to have a plan to be able to go out and offset some of what Georgia offers. Same thing with Bobo. Like he's not running right into the teeth of crossing those guys up front. And if he knows he gets man, he'll have probably a better assortment of man beaters than what Indiana tried to throw out there for the first, 3 quarters, which took them way too long, I felt like, to try to attack that in a different way. I think we go from a couple of blowouts and miserable games to mostly competitive games here in this round. Do I think Boise can hang a little bit? Yeah. Ultimately, Penn State probably looks comfortable doing it. Arizona State, if they can control the pace of the game, could make that thing interesting. I think Ohio State, Oregon, you're looking at a classic. And I think Notre Dame, Georgia is going to be close. So just remember, when you're going out there, PrizePicks is the way to go. This episode, College Football Playoff Round 2 preview brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com, the best place to play fantasy sports. Go set your lineup today. You could win 100 times your money right there at PrizePicks. It's just simple. We could go look at Drew Aller, 29 pass attempts, more or less. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now I'm going less than that. I don't think he's going to have to do that. I just don't think that's going to be something that he has to go out there and try to make happen. So you're going to be able to take things like that. You're going to be able to take Maddox Madsen, more or less 166.5 passing yards. I'll tell you right now, I'll probably go more because I think they're going to be trailing later, and he's going to have to sling it a little bit to try and get back in the game or try to go win the game. Easy. Go fill your lineup out now. Use promo code CUBE. Play $5. You're going to have $50 to spend right there on PrizePicks. PrizePicks.com. Download it in the App Store. Go do what I did, PrizePicks. I'm going to post my lineups on Instagram and Twitter at Cube Show, so you'll be able to check those out. What I'm playing this weekend, and I want to see what you're playing. Leave it in the comments. Let me know how it goes, and we'll be back before next round, the third round of the College Football Playoff, with another one of these episodes of PrizePicks, and we'll be back on the second to recap what we saw January 1 and December 31st with the 4 College Football Playoff games. Please subscribe right there on YouTube. Apple Podcast, Spotify, subscribe there as well. Please like if you're watching the video right now. We always appreciate the support. Thank you guys for tuning in. And you know what? I'll apologize to you Ohio State fans one time who are asking me to kiss your buttholes and to do all the other nasty stuff that you've been asking me to do. Yeah, no.